And welcome to Sunday Funday. It's time to have some fun and do some Bible studies, and hope we'll have a good time tonight. I think I got everything working. It'll probably be a little bit wonky. I'm still trying to learn all the things I'm trying to do here, but hope we'll have some fun. It's time for Sunday Funday. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, give me a quick hello in the chat. Hi, Carol. Good evening. You beat me to it. You're already saying hello, and I'm just now getting to say hello. Good to see you on. Glad to see your internet's working. I know we got home from church today and our internet wasn't working, but fortunately, rebooted the router, solved that. But I guess this morning's small storm coming through kind of blinked the power a little bit and gave the Wi-Fi a little bit of a challenge. That timer off of there. Hi, Miss Judy. Good to see you as well. Good to have you on tonight. So, all right. We'll wait just a moment longer and then we're going to get started. You can tell we got the lineup here on the side of the screen there. We're going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections, mixture of games, verses, and I need to quit bumping the table or I'm going to be shaking the whole time. It looks like every time I touch the table, my camera is bouncing. But all right, well, we will go ahead and go ahead and get started. I was kind of proud of my little Sunday Funday logo there in the top right. Got my little sloth kind of moving along. I showed that this morning on the thing, but kind of liking that. Of course, when I go to look at that, I can't stay on there. Hi, Darlene. Good evening. Good to see you as well. So, all right. So I've changed things up a little bit. Hopefully I can see comments tonight better than I was seeing them this morning because I want lots of comments here. So I want everyone to be participating. But you notice on the slide here, we've got a lot of people building a house, and we're talking about building. This morning I talked during our Exodus passage about how the Hebrews were forced into labor, slavery, if you will, by the Egyptians, and it mentioned in the Bible that they built some of the cities were primarily built by the Hebrews. And so we're going to talk a little bit about building tonight, just kind of something fun. I'm not much of a carpenter myself, so we won't talk about the details and nitty gritty of building because I wouldn't be very good at that. So Miss Judy said that's like her after lunch. After lunch, you were kind of moving like our little sloth there on the Sunday Funday graphic, moving towards the couch, hopefully for a nap. All right. Well, let's just jump right in. If I can move things forward like I'm supposed to, we're going to start with build this city. And so we're going to do is having trouble remember what the next game is. Oh yeah, this is some trivia questions. So I'm gonna put our timer up. Not that we actually need the timer, but I just like watching it click away. So I'm going to give you the question. You're welcome to guess at it without any options. Then I'll give you 3 choices if you prefer the multiple choice thing, because some of these, I'll admit, I'd be shocked if people knew. Now, some of them you will. Again, I'm shaking the table here. Some of them you will know, but some of them I would be kind of shocked. They're not things I would have known had I been looking it up on some cards I had that were talking about different stages of the Bible. But in the Bible, who built the first city? Anybody know who built the first city? Like I say, if you don't make your guesses right now, I'll give a little bit of time. Then I'm going to throw up 3 options. It's A, B, or C. Sometimes there might be a 4th one, A, B, C, or D. I don't remember which ones I did 3 options and which ones I did 4. All right, so nobody's guessing without it, at least not coming through yet. So we'll go ahead and give you 3 choices here. Was it Adam? Was it Cain? Or was it Seth? Which of these 3 people in the Bible built the first city? First time we're told about someone building a city, this person doing it. Who is that? So I'm either having difficulties streaming or everyone is pondering who built the first city. Or maybe you're phoning a friend or asking the audience. All right, Carol's going with Seth. We got 1 vote for C. Anybody else want to take a shot at this? Miss Judy's going to go with B, Cain. All right. Anybody else going to take a stab at this one? We have two answers so far and two different answers. No consensus yet. All right. I guess I'll share the answer. The correct answer is B, Cain. So good job, Miss Judy. You go ahead and put her answer up there. Just celebrate her correct answer there. All right. Bonus question. What did he name it? Anybody know what he named that city? Oh, Darlene came in with an answer. I didn't see that one. She was going with Seth as well. Okay. So the two people going with Seth. One person got Cain, which was the correct answer. But bonus question here. Anybody know what Cain named this first city when he built it? My camera's not looking like it's in focus. I don't know if that's just, okay, that looks better. I don't know if it looks better. It's still showing me, but at least it's not blurry me. All right. Anybody want to guess what Cain named this first city that he built? I'm not giving you A, B, or C on this one. Sorry. Bonus questions don't have multiple choice. I should have said that. People might have been waiting for the multiple choice. Bonus questions don't have multiple choice. I want to know what he named it. Oh, Darlene's throwing up a hand. She's, I don't know. All right. I'm guessing no one else does either. We'd have some answers coming in by now. So I'll go ahead and give it to you. He named it Enoch. Interesting name for a city, huh? He named the city Enoch. And that comes from Genesis chapter 4. Judy's giving the question mark there too. Nobody knew that. This, like I said, some of these are just questions you wouldn't know. I mean, it's like kind of a little side note there in Scripture. Genesis chapter 4, this is right after Cain has been kind of driven out for killing Abel and is kind of in isolation, he and his wife. It says, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. So first city we're told of that got built in the Bible was by Cain. Obviously, probably driven by his fear that people were going to come and retaliate against him. Remember, God had told everyone, if you touch Cain, you will be punished. But Cain was probably still worried that people were going to come after him. So he's building this walled area, which we would refer to as a city at that time. So named it Enoch. All right. Next question. I mentioned the cities this morning, or the fact that the Hebrews were forced into building cities for the Egyptian pharaohs. And the Bible even mentions two of the Egyptian cities, which were primarily built by the Hebrews. So what two Egyptian cities were built by the Hebrew slaves? Was that Pithom? Now, I'm probably not saying these right. I'm not very good with pronouncing these things. Cairo, Ramses, and Luxor. Which two of those Egyptian cities did the Hebrew slaves build, according to Exodus chapter 1? May have made these too hard. Everybody's guessing now. That or they're looking it up. All right, so Carol's going, see if I can show this up here. Carol's going with A and C, Pithom and Ramses. Miss Judy's going with A and C. All right, so they seem pretty confident here, going same answers. So I'm feeling like they're not guessing here because they are correct. Pithom and Ramses are the two cities that Exodus tells us were primarily built by the Hebrews as part of the slavery that Pharaoh was putting them on. So, all right, Darlene got a guess in there too. I don't know why I'm getting yours a little bit later than everybody else's, Darlene. She was guessing Cairo and Ramses. So one out of the two on that one. So, all right, good job, everybody. All right. This comes from Exodus chapter 1, verse 11. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. So, all right. Who built a city called Ramah? Anybody know who built a city called Ramah? I'll go ahead and give you the guesses there. That's true. You're the farthest away. That may be the case. It's not how the internet's supposed to work, but given the way our internet works out where we live, I'm almost beginning to believe that might be the case. Oh, those little ones and zeros have further to travel. They want to guess who built Ramah. This is another one of those, like I said, if you know this one without having to look it up, then I am thoroughly impressed. Anybody want to take a stab at this one? Or maybe people are looking it up. I don't know. I have this visionary with their Bibles out, kind of scrolling through, like, okay, I'm gonna find this one. Or I guess in today's world, they'd be looking at Googling it or whatever. But it's kind of hard to Google things while you're watching a live stream if you're doing it on your phone. All right, Carol's going with Baasha. Darlene's going with Barabbas. Miss Judy's going with Balak. All right, so we got three people guessing entirely different answers here. So now let's see which one is correct. It is Baasha, and that comes from 1 Kings 15, verse 17. It says, "And Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and built Ramah, that he might not suffer any to go out or come in to Asa, king of Judah." Now, I picked that one because I think it's interesting history there to think about the Israelite history. Remember, after David was king, Solomon became king, and after Solomon became king, after he died, the kingdom split, and you have the northern kingdom, which is generally referred to as Israel from that point on, and you have the southern kingdom, which was generally referred to as Judah from that point on. They're all still Israelites. They're all still one nation, but they're ruled by two different kings, and sometimes even those two parts of Israel didn't get along. You can see that Baasha, who was the king of the northern kingdom, Israel, he goes up and he's kind of doing this to get back at Judah. He doesn't want his people from his kingdom going down to Judah. So he built Ramah, trying to build this city so that people wouldn't have to go down to the southern cities in Judah and carry on business and do things like that. So he's trying to, there's this friction between the north and the south, between Israel and between Judah. And it just kind of shows that this city was built strictly because of that conflict. And that fact that Baasha didn't like Asa, who was the king of Judah. So, all right, next question. Who built Babylon, also known as Babel, when it was first started? Anybody know? Oh, I haven't been, yeah, we're still down it. Oh, I guess I should give the choices here. Was it Abraham, Nimrod, or David that built a city called Babel, which would be Babylon? All right, Carol's going with C, David, if I'm still on the right answer. I believe so. I believe that's on this question. It does get hard for me to remember where people answered what. Miss Judy's going with B, Nimrod. Darlene's going with C. All right, so we got we got 2 for C and 1 for B. I was about to say we had all of them chosen here, but we don't. We have 2 for B, 2 for C, and 1 for B. And nobody else has been given guesses, so we don't have a tiebreaker here. Correct answer is B, Nimrod. And this comes from Genesis chapter 10, verses 8 to 10. It says, "And Cush, who was one of the descendants of drawing a blank here, Noah's sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Shem, I believe. Cush is one of his sons, if I'm not mistaken. He begat Nimrod, and says he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord." So people would use that as a expression that he was known to be a hunter before the Lord. And it says in the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. So this Nimrod was kind of, I guess, a big guy, at least big in terms of all the things he did. Was a well-known hunter and built several cities, or at least oversaw the building of those cities. And chapter 11 goes on to tell us that this is where the Tower of Babel was attempted to be built, and that's how it got the name Babel, by God confounding the languages. But it was built there by Nimrod. So interesting bit of information there. Again, building cities and things happening in those cities. All right. So speaking of Babel and Babylon, who rebuilt Babylon? Who came back later and rebuilt the city, made it bigger, made it, he claims he built the city, but obviously the city was already there, but he changed it so much, he claimed it was his, that he had built it. Who was that? Any guesses? Oh, I guess I can give you the choices here. Nebuchadnezzar, Ahab, or Ezekiel? Which of these 3 men rebuilt Babylon, or the area of Babel? Important part of the world there where civilization was gathered and God dispersed them. And then obviously later, Babylon certainly became a world power and was a major, part of the world history there. But who rebuilt Babylon? Oh, got some answers here. Hang on. All right. Carol's going with A, Nebuchadnezzar. Miss Judy's going with B, Ahab, one of the kings of Israel. All right. The correct answer is, I was waiting for Darlene's 1s and 0s to get here. Oh, there it is. I knew it was coming in. She's going with A. So Carol and Darlene are going with A. Miss Judy's going with B. And the correct answer is A, Nebuchadnezzar. He rebuilt Babylon, took it from being a smaller city and made it into a major city. Daniel chapter 4, you hear it from Nebuchadnezzar's own mouth. He says, the king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? That sounds like a person who's pretty proud of themselves, right? Someone who is taking credit for everything. I built the city. I made it what it is. It was an impressive city, though. Babylon was so massive that it spanned the Euphrates River and was encircled by an 11-mile-long outer wall. And from what I have read and understand, Nebuchadnezzar is the one that took Babylon and made it on both sides of the Euphrates. It kind of made that city that much bigger to encompass both sides of that. But you can tell by his own language there, he was happy that he had built. He says, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power? You can only guess what happened in the next verse there. God struck him down. He humbled Nebuchadnezzar at that point and made Nebuchadnezzar realize that you didn't do all this on your own. So, all right. Who rebuilt Jericho? Talking about rebuilding cities, taking cities that were there and redoing them. As Judy says, yeah, Judy says, he's the one who likes to brag. That's right. Nebuchadnezzar was definitely one that liked to brag. So, but he rebuilt Babylon. But who rebuilt Jericho? Now you'll remember Jericho is the first city that Israel encountered when they crossed over the Jordan into the Promised Land, and one of the first battles that they had there, and probably the first major battle, I guess. And they obviously destroyed the city. You remember the story? They circled around it every day for 7 days, came out with their trumpets and blew the trumpets. And God gave them the victory simply by bringing the walls down for them. And Jericho was destroyed at that point. But who rebuilt Jericho after that? Anybody know? Oh, I can give you some choices here. Herod, Haman, or Heal? We're going with some H names here. Herod, Haman, or Heal? Who rebuilt Jericho? Anyone? All right, Darlene's going with A. Herod. Herod definitely is known for his building projects. Did a lot of rebuilding in that area of Palestine. Question is, did he rebuild Jericho? Anyone else going to take a guess? Or are we just all going to go with Darlene's answer? All right. Oop, there's an answer. Just as I was about to share it. All right, Carol's going with A as well. So we have two votes for Herod. I won't say their guesses. You guys might feel pretty confident there. But the correct answer is Heal. Got another answer here. Miss Judy's going with A as well. Everybody was going with Herod. I can see why. Herod did do a lot of rebuilding in Palestine, and even the temple and different things like that at that point in history. But this is earlier than that. This is Heal. Bonus question before I give you the verse that goes along with this. Do you know who placed a curse on anyone who would attempt to rebuild Jericho? Does anybody remember that story? Trying to find some stories that people might not have not remember as much, kind of the more obscure things here, talking about building cities. So Heal rebuilt it, even though someone had placed a curse on anyone who tried to do so. And there's no multiple choice on the bonus question, so you just have to take some guesses if you want to. Who might have placed a curse on anyone that attempted to rebuild Jericho? And sure enough, Heal comes along and not worried about that curse. All right, no guesses on this one. All right, yeah, this was kind of obscure. I didn't know if anybody remember this. I didn't actually remember this until I started looking at it, like, oh yeah. It was actually Joshua, and we'll see that as we look at the verses here. In 1 Kings chapter 16, it says that in his days did Heal the Bethelite build Jericho. He laid the foundation thereof in Abiram, his firstborn, and set up the gates thereof in his youngest son, Segub, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Joshua, the son of Nun. So, all right, Miss Judy's giving me the question mark there going, okay, I give up on that one. So, so it was Heal that tried to actually did rebuild Jericho. And that's why you'll remember hearing references to it made in later points in the history there. And you notice what it says, he laid the foundation thereof in Abiram, his firstborn, and set up the gates thereof in his youngest son. You kind of go like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. What is it saying? What is it talking about there? That's where the curse from Joshua comes in. Back in Joshua chapter 6, after they destroyed Jericho and God had given them the victory, it says, and Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, cursed be the man before the Lord that rises up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and his youngest son shall he set the gates of it. So Joshua made a curse at the time they destroyed Jericho. He said, it's not to be rebuilt, telling the children of Israel, none of us are going to come back and try to rebuild the city. And if they do, his firstborn son's going to die when they start rebuilding it. And before he gets the gates up, his second-born son will also die. And that's exactly what happened in 1 Kings when Heel decided, I'm going to rebuild Jericho. I'm not worried about this curse that everyone's been talking about. That kind of showed the way the people then didn't believe the history. They didn't believe the stories they'd been told about what God had done and the people he had used, Moses and Joshua and all those leaders that God had worked through. He didn't believe all those fables and all those myths and all those ancient tales. He was going to do what he wanted to do. And we told there in 1 Kings that when he built it, sure enough, when he laid the foundation, his firstborn son died. And before he got the gates up, his youngest son passed away as well, just as had been prophesied by Joshua. All right, so now I want to look at a quick verse here, a couple of verses, I should say, and calling this "How Firm a Foundation." Hopefully you can find some humor in my small graphic there. It goes along with that. Foundation has one of those words that has a lot of meanings, but they all have the same meaning. Like, what is the, what's underneath? What are you building on? And I don't know anything about applying makeup, but I do know there's something called foundation. But I know in building a house, obviously the foundation is an important part. In building any building, any structure, the foundation is critical, because if it starts to move or to give way, the whole structure can be affected by it. And so Jesus mentioned something about a foundation, about what we build on in Matthew chapter 27. This is towards the tail end of the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus has been giving them all this information about how we're not good enough on our own to earn God's favor, and that we need something more in our lives. He's setting up the stage to let them know they need a Savior. They need someone to take their place. And he's giving them this, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn. He's going through all that. And after that, in Matthew chapter 7, Jesus says, Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. He says, when we hear God's instruction and we actually put it into practice, that's wisdom. That is building a foundation. It's not just saying, okay, I know what the Bible says. I know what's in. I know a lot of stories from the Bible. I know what it's trying to tell me. If we don't live that out in our life, if we don't let it change how we behave and how we interact with the world around us, he says that we're like. He says in the next verse, the foolish man. He says, we back up a little bit. I didn't read the second part there. He says, I will liken him to a wise man which built his house upon a rock. When the rains descended and the floods came, the winds blew and beat upon that house, it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. It had a good foundation. He says, we really put into practice what God is telling us, what his word says. We're building a foundation for our life that he can work on, and that we can do something meaningful and lasting. He goes on to say, and everyone that hears these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened to a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Surely you know the song we used to sing in children's church and vacation Bible school, and the rains came down and the floods came up. Anybody remember that song? The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood firm. Or the second verse, and the house on the sand went splat. So hopefully y'all remember that song. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that ever sang that. But that's taken from the story. And Jesus is talking about that foundation. What we build our life on needs to be his words, his truth, his instruction to us. And if we just hear it and don't do anything about it, it's not a real foundation. It's like building on sand. And so I just wanted us to kind of take a moment and think about that. All right. Next section. I am running kind of behind here. I'm calling this Far, Far Away. So get where I can see the comments here. I'm going to ask you a couple of cities here, and I want you to tell me which one is the farthest from a certain location. So first off, I've got this right here from West Blockton, Alabama. That's where I'm sitting as we play this. Which of these cities is farthest from West Blockton, Alabama? And I must have messed up on that. I was supposed to say Paris, France. France at one time. Pasted over again and messed up, because I did have to do some cleaning up on my slides here. But Paris, France, Juneau, Alaska, Moscow, Russia, London, England, or Cairo, Egypt. As we sit in West Blockton, and as the crow flies, as they say, we're not trying to say driving time, because obviously some of these you can't necessarily just strictly drive to, unless you have one of those duck boats that drives out onto the water and then goes across the water. But as the crow flies, as they say, straight direction. Which one of these is furthest from West Blockton, Alabama? Anybody know? Talking about building cities. These are some cities that have been built. Paris, obviously, there's a lot of history there. Juneau, Alaska. I just put that in there because that's uh, one of those American cities that's still kind of far away. Moscow, a lot of history there. London, a lot of history there. Cairo, Egypt, a lot of history there as well. So, which of these is furthest from West Blockton, Alabama? Judy's going with Cairo. All right. See if I get these answers up here. And I'm not going to wait too long because I am kind of running out of time here and want to get through these. So I don't want to rush people, but all right. Darlene's saying, okay, I'm making a guess here, but I'm going to go with London. All right. And another one here comes. Oh, Christy coming in. Egypt. Okay, she's going with Cairo. All right. So we got 2 for Cairo, 1 for London. And those who said Cairo, Egypt would be correct. 6,498 miles from West Blockton to Cairo. Narrowly edging out, I guess, 1,000 miles. I guess it's not too narrow, but edging out Moscow at almost 5,500 miles. All right, so I didn't trick anyone with throwing Alaska in there. It seemed like it's so far away. I thought people might be like, wonder if it's further. All right, next question. Which of these cities is furthest from Washington, D.C.? There's a lot of stuff going on in the news, a lot of things happening around the world. So I want you to imagine you're in Washington, D.C. Which of these cities is furthest away? Is it Jerusalem? Again, another city with lots of history. Is it Kiev, Ukraine? Not sure if I'm saying that right, but Ukraine, obviously, everyone's hearing a lot about that right now in the news with the war in Russia and Ukrainians there defending their home country. Tokyo, a lot of history there in that city. And Sao Paulo, Brazil. So going to the south of us, if you go down South America to Brazil, which of these is furthest from Washington, D.C.? All right, so Carol's going with Tokyo. All right. I did mix these up enough so that I could tell when people are answering which questions. I knew if I duplicated the same city on consecutive slides, I wouldn't be able to keep track of who's guessing what. All right, so one guess for Tokyo. And no other. Oh, there it comes. All right, Christy's going with Tokyo as well. All right. All right, Miss Judy's going to go with Kiev. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but Ukraine. And Darlene's going to go with Tokyo as well. All right, so 3 votes for Tokyo, 1 for Ukraine, you should call it that. And the correct answer is Tokyo, 6,774 miles from Washington, D.C. to Tokyo, Japan. Next on the list would have been Ukraine, Kiev, almost 5,000 miles. No, I take it back. Next on the list would have been Jerusalem, 5,900 miles, and then Kiev, and then Sao Paulo. So, all right. So Sao Paulo and Kiev are about the same distance away. That's kind of interesting to me. All right. Now, coming back home, Alabama, staying within the state, which is furthest from West Blockton, Alabama. And this is according to something I used on the web where I just typed in the cities and it told me the distances. So I don't know, people may like, that's not right. So once you stay within the state, I was actually surprised by the answer, to be honest with you. If I were guessing these, what I would guess, had I not been the one plugging in the numbers and seeing the answers as they unfolded, I would have gotten this one wrong. But how well do you know your Alabama cities? Which is the furthest from right here, West Blockton, Alabama? Pretty much, we're central state. We're pretty much right in the middle of the state there. That makes it kind of tough to know. But which of these is furthest from West Blockton? Mobile, Huntsville, Andalusia, Fort Wayne, or Wadowee? And I don't know if Katie's watching tonight, but I had to think of her with that Wadowee because we went there for a volleyball game one time, and I remember her and whoever was in the car with us, they're back there, wee-doo-wee. They had fun with that name. They pronounced it so many different ways. They were having a lot of fun. All right, so Christy's going with Fort Payne. I'm from Fort Payne, Alabama. So, bonus question: which country music group hails from Fort Wayne, Alabama? Just kidding. I don't have that question in here, but you're welcome to share it. All right, nobody else is guessing. Fort Payne is the only one getting any. Oh, here we come. All right, so I think it's gonna go with Huntsville. All right, so we got Fort Payne, we've got Huntsville. Miss Judy's going with Andalusia. Carol's gonna go with Fort Payne as well. And Christy's finishing my song there. Fort Payne, Alabama. All right, and the correct answer, congratulations, Miss Judy, is Andalusia, 222 miles. It's funny because if you just glance at a map, Andalusia looks further north than Mobile. I would have guessed Mobile as the furthest away. Even if I looked at the map, I'm like, Andalusia looks like it's further north. But according to the site I used that had distances and everything, it's 222 miles from West Blockton to Andalusia. And again, that's supposed to be as the crow flies. So it's not just the way the roads go or whatever, but Andalusia the furthest, Mobile next, Fort Payne next, which surprised me. I thought Huntsville would be further than Fort Payne. Shows my poor ability with distances. And Wadowee come in at 96 miles, not too far away. So, all right, so that's far, far away. Now, how to build. As we start to wrap up here, I have a blitz thing at the end here. We're just going to go through a whole bunch of things, blitzkrieg style. Miss Judy's had a reason for knowing. This is about Wadowee. Show me the. Okay. Miss Judy and Mr. Jerry would run out of Wadowee, so she's familiar with that part of the country. I don't think I'd ever been there until Katie played the volleyball game there. But so yeah, as think about how to build. The picture there, that's really the way to build. And you got that many people, neighbors coming over to help you build. I'm assuming that's some kind of Amish things. They're all wearing similar straw hats. I could be wrong. Mennonite, Amish, something of that nature. But you get that many people working on it, and it goes up a lot faster, doesn't it? That's how you build a house. Well, Solomon also gives us some information about how to build, about how to make a good home. And Proverbs 24 verses 1-4, he says, "Don't envy the evil or desire to be with them." Wow, isn't that important? I mean, so many times we look at people's lives and go, "Oh, I wish I could be like that." I wouldn't say we idolize people, but we do kind of put people on a pedestal sometimes just because of their accomplishments or because of something they did that we enjoyed. It says, if these people are not good people, don't desire to be with them. Don't envy them. It says, don't envy the evil or desire to be with them, for their hearts plan violence and their words stir up trouble. So if someone's not a good person, they're not going to suddenly make a good influence on you just because they may have success or they may have things that look desirable in their lives. He says they're gonna continue to plan things that are against what God has. And he goes on to say what we do want to do. He says a house is built by wisdom. It is established by understanding. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with every precious and beautiful treasure. If we allow God to give us wisdom, and we know from our study of the book of Proverbs, that's what he's talking about, is letting God put wisdom in us. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Beginning to trust God and to give him rule of our life. That's what it says, that by wisdom, we'll have a house that is established. We'll have a house that is everything that we need it to be. I thought that was an interesting thought there about building. A house is built by wisdom, not by boards and nails and bolts and screws and metal. It's built by wisdom. It's established by understanding. And it's the rooms are filled by knowledge. So Miss Vera's having trouble with the connection. You're going on and off. So I don't know. I apologize for that. I don't know if that's from my end or Facebook or what, but hate to hear that. And then, so we've kind of out of time here tonight, but I do want to do one last thing. It's kind of a blitzkrieg of information. So I want you to answer quickly and just kind of throw your answers out there. I'm gonna ask the question, what you building? And you've just inherited a lumber yard full of lumber, full of 2x4s, 6x6s, 4x4s, plywood, all that stuff that right now is so expensive. You just inherited a whole yard of it. And I'm going to give you some things to think about, and you tell me what you're going to build with all that lumber. So I'm calling it What You Building. You just throw out answers. I'm going to keep moving as we go, and this will be how we wrap up. So I'll just go ahead and say as we get to this part, I hope everyone has a great week, and I hope it's a week where we build on a foundation of God's Word, building a foundation, letting God change our life. So, all right, what you building? It begins with a W or an S. Doesn't matter what it is. You got to build something with all that lumber you just inherited, and it's got to start with either a W or an S. What you going to build? This is kind of one of those things that there's no right answer. I don't have a thing to give you there. It's just as many words you can think of that might make sense to build out of lumber that start with a W or an S. And the answers I understand, I will share up here as we go. Okay, so Christy's building a shed. That was what had me confusing at first. It was like, she's what? She's going to build a shed. That does start with a W and could use lumber. All right, come on. What you got? What you going to build? It starts with a W or an S. Stumped you on this one, huh? Not too many things start with a W or an S that can be built with wood, I take it, huh? Nobody's gonna build a water tower, maybe? I don't know. We need a water tower. A wall? A wall could be built with boards. All right. I said this was going to be a blitzkrieg, so I need to keep moving. All right. A wood house. Okay, good use of the W there. I didn't think of that option. A wood house. Girl's going to go all out and use all that lumber to make a house. You said maybe my brain was saying a she shed. That's true. You might have been saying you're trying to say she shed and came out as she's shed. Miss Judy says she's going to build a large shed. All right. We always have need for more storage, don't we? That's one of those things that you just always have need of. All right. So Darlene doesn't know what she's going to build with it. All right. What about something that fits in a house? You got to build something with some of this lumber that you just inherited. It's got to fit in your house. What are you going to build? Ooh, I got to stand up for a second. Oh. All right. Sorry about that. Oh. Cramp in my leg. Couldn't sit down any longer. Got to build something that fits in your house. What you going to build? Everybody's on these. I thought it'd be a lot like just one answer after another here. You got a lumber yard full of lumber. You got to build something, but it has to fit in your house. No letter restrictions on this one. She's building a table. All right. Is that because you think that's something you could actually build and do a good job at, or something you need? It's in the house, a table, a desk, a bed. Oh, Carol's going with a bed. Yep, I figured somebody would want to build a bed. Oh, I missed one. Darlene's going to build a buffet with a fold-out table. All right. Now you guys are getting creative. Okay, we got all this lumber. Let's build something here. A table, a buffet, a bed. All right. You got to build something that's bigger than your current home. You got this lumber yard. You got to build something. It's got to be bigger than the house you live in right now. What are you going to build? What you going to build? Where's everybody going? Does that bill get big? I don't have to build it. All right, Carol's going to build some built-in bookshelves. Okay, that was the one for in the house. That's a good idea, some built-in bookshelves. All right, Darlene's building a barn. All right, a barn bigger than your house. See, Christy would want that. Christy wouldn't mind having a barn that is bigger than our house. Oh, that sure enough, there's her answer too. Barn. She's even putting the animals in it already. Miss Judy says she's going to build a bigger house. It's got to be bigger than the house she's in now. She's build a big house. That's a good idea. All I said was it had to be bigger than your current home. So might as well just build another one that's even bigger and move into it. All right. You got to build something to give to a friend. Oh, Carol's going to build a guest house. I like that one. That was a good answer. That was on the last question there. Something, or is that, I think that's from the last one. I just saw it pop up right as I was changing the screen, so I'm assuming that's from the bigger than your house. But a guest house, that would be a nice addition to any setup. You got to build something to give to a friend. What you gonna build? No letter limitations, no size limitations. What you gonna build? What you building? All right, are you building a bench or a swing? I like that. All right. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I've been wanting to. My dad and I both would like to build some Adirondack chairs, and I can see building a bench or a swing. That's. She's building a house for a friend. All right, that's a good answer. I didn't really think of that option, but yeah, I definitely have some people I wouldn't mind being able to build a house for. Looking for somewhere to live. Carol's building those bookshelves. All right. Never have too many bookshelves, right? Those of us that love books, there's always room for more bookshelves. Miss Judy's gonna build a chest for storage. Yeah, that would make a nice gift. It's you don't see that as often anymore. Those big chests that wooden chests. But Christy loves those things too. I bet we have at least 2 or 3 of those. Because when Christy sees those available, she will get those. She loves those old chests. All right, next on. What you building to put in your yard? You got to build something to put in your yard. What you going to build now? She said we only have 3 of those chests. Okay, I knew we had a number of them. I wasn't quite sure how many there were. She definitely loves them. Yeah, Darlene's saying those cedar chests. Yep. So yeah, if you are shopping somewhere with Christy and they have some of those old chests, I try to steer the other direction, and we might be leaving with one of those. You got to build something to put in your yard. What you building? Okay, Christy's building a gazebo, if I can say the word, a gazebo. Oh, Carol's building a fence. I actually came in before and I didn't see it. All right, that's a good thought. Yeah. Take some of that lumber and build a nice fence. We need one of those in our backyard to keep some of these critters in. A swing. All right. Just using to build a swing. That'd be a good use of some of that lumber to have a nice swing. It's nice, especially in the summer or late summer and fall, when at the end of the day, it's kind of still daylight, but starting to cool off a little bit of breeze. Get out there on the swing and just kind of swing a little bit. All right. Last one, I think, next to a lake. You got to build something to put next to a lake. What you gonna build? Only one thing. I'm not looking for all the things you will build, but what's the one thing you're gonna build next to a lake? Miss Judy. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Darlene's building boxes for a garden. Okay, so this was back to the last question there. I didn't think about that. Yeah, some raised beds. That'd be a good use of that lumber. Miss Judy's putting the swing out there for the kids. So yeah, good idea. So Carol's got the lake and the lumber, and now she's going to build a dream house. All right, I can't argue with that. Some people like to live next to the lake, and so you got that. I think everybody's going the same option here. Christy's putting a log cabin next to the lake. So all right, Miss Judy's going with a cabin as well. All right. That's interesting. I didn't think everybody was going to go with a house type structure. I guess I was envisioning dock or other types of structures as well, gazebo type things, all that. But we got a lot of people just say, hey, just put me down by the lake and leave me there. So, all right, nothing wrong with that. So Darlene's says, buy a lake, a boat dock, then sell lumber so I can buy a boat. Yeah, there you go. You got all that lumber. Might as well build that boat dock and then use some of the rest of it to try to get that boat to be able to use that boat dock. So, all right. Well, yeah. I hope you guys have fun with this. I know I did. I always enjoy the ones where you guys just kind of freestyle and tell me what you're thinking around random questions that I try to surprise you with. But let's do think this week. What are we building our life on? Are we building our life on things we want, goals we have? Or are we building it just strictly on, okay, God, what are you doing in my life and what do you want me to do today? As he said, the wise man builds his house on the rock. That means taking God's word, putting it into action. The foolish man builds it on the sand, which means, yeah, I know what God says, but I'm going to try my own thing anyway. Let's go out this week, build a life that's built on the rock, doing what God is telling us to do, being obedient to Him. And as we mentioned this morning, giving our concerns to Him and letting Him take control, letting Him be in charge. Hope you have a wonderful week. It might be a little bit wet some this week according to the forecast, but that should be good as well. If you need me for anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Love you guys, and we will talk next week.